our planes was missing, 2 hours overdue. One of our planes was missing with all its gallant crew. The radio sets were humming, they waited for the word. Then a voice broke through the humming, and this is what they heard. Coming in on a wing and a prayer. Coming in on a wing and a prayer. Though there's one motor gone, we can still carry on. Coming in on a wing and a prayer.
Due to continued bombing during 1941, it was decided to host a detachment from 87 Squadron of Hurricane fighter planes and 30 ground crew staff to the High Cross Airfield on St Mary's. I joined the RAF at 18 and I was one of the first pilots to come over to Scilly. We had a good start. I reckon we shot down 7 or 8 enemy aircraft in the first 2 or 3 weeks here. There were always 2 pilots on immediate readiness, strapped into the cockpit with the phone plugged in on the side, the engine warmed up and the engineer ready to press the button. 2 more pilots were on 30 minutes readiness, usually down at Springfield's hotel. The others were resting. We were a definite deterrent. Captured German maps showed a 90-mile exclusion zone around Scilly. That was in 1942, less than a year after we'd been posted. But of course it wasn't all one way. 8 Hurricanes were lost on Scilly between 1941 and 1944, and not all of the pilots survived. There are 8 white RAF gravestones in Old Town Churchyard, and 4 of those are of pilots. Now, if any of the locals, many of whom were friends, ever asked about the missing airmen, we'd reply in a sort of code, to take the edge off that they'd gone fishing, which ironically was our call sign.
I remember that 4-engine Liberator coming down in Carting Carl in 44.
It ran out of fuel. It came down right across the main road by the tile house. Where Watermeadow Barn is today.
The plane was damaged. The pilot used as much of the extended runway as he could, but despite his skill and bravery, he overshot, skidded across the road, crashed through a load of hedges and a brick wall, leaving great gaps in his path.
Scary. There was a crew of 8 and a passenger on board. And the propeller, it snapped off, flew into the cockpit, and before that poor pilot could be taken to hospital, he died.
The fuel gauges were near empty. We were running on fumes, and there was no time left. The only airfield within reach was far too short for a Liberator, but we had no choice. We had to put her down. We lined up for approach. Too fast, too high. There was no fuel for another pass. Someone shouted. The wheels slammed into the ground, bouncing hard. The runway disappeared beneath us in seconds. Nowhere near enough space to stop. The nose pitched forward as we shot past the drone, straight across the road. Hedges shattered. A brick wall exploded in our path. Then, a horrific crash. A propeller tore free, whipping into the cockpit. Blood. The pilot slumped forward. Someone yelled. We tried. God, we tried. But before we could reach him, before help could come, he was gone.
Flight Officer T.E. Dixon, rest in peace.
Yeah, what about that Whitley bomber that came down in 1943?
Oh yeah, it came down in our quarry. I was home when I heard it. It overshot the runway when its engines failed. Yeah, and it came crashing down through the trees at Longstone Quarry and ended up right by our terrace.
Well, yeah, that's the quarry that June and Richard Lethbridge changed into Carrington Gardens.
Yeah. So I ran out to help. Mother and father were poorly at the time, so they were in bed, but they soon got up to come and have a look, see what was happening. Yeah, and the neighbours came out to help. Mother and I, we offered them coffee and biscuits. Yeah. But my neighbour that came out, she had a carton of cigarettes. She smoked 80 a day. And she had a bottle of whiskey. Yeah, so of course they went into her house.
Yeah, that pilot, he reckoned it made his holiday. You know, they spent 3 days here on the island, staying at the Atlantic Hotel. Said it was well worth the bother of coming down.
Oh, right, for him to say. It took them ages to cut up that plane and get it out of the quarries. Thankfully nobody was hurt.
I was a survivor too, but only just.
Morning, Rogers. Afraid your day off's going to have to take a bit of a dive. We need you and your kite for some cine gun work on a Sunderland.
Well, this was training, so shooting with a camera rather than a gun. Anyway, I took off, everything seemed normal, and I headed out to find my prey for the day, which on this occasion was a Sunderland flying boat. Now, Sunderlands are tricky to find because they fly so low on the water, but I found him and I started to make my attacks. All was going well, I finished a run, turned to climb out, got to 500 feet and suddenly lost all power. I looked out the window and there were flames coming from the exhaust. Now, I'd heard lots of tales of pilots trying to bail out at 500 feet or less and the chute getting caught around the tailplane, so I decided the best thing to do would be to try and land the plane underwater. Now, all of us pilots had discussed how best to do this if the need arose, and we concluded that the best way would be to try and make a normal approach with the flaps down but with the wheels up. And then right at the last minute to clip the flaps up, which would cause the plane to stall. Now, when a plane stalls, one of the wings drops. It's just natural. So the idea was that the wing would drop, catch the water, spin the plane round, take off all the speed. Well, it worked, and here I am. The plane flipped over and broke its back, but I managed to get out. The water was bitterly cold, and I could feel the weight of my flying boots just dragging me down.
The lifeboat was already out looking for survivors from a torpedoed warship, as were the motor launches. So, it was left to the Coast Guard lookhead on St Agnes, who'd seen the plane catch fire to help. They rowed out in a small punt from St Agnes.
By this time I was floating somewhere near the Lethbridge rocks. But they got me and they pulled me on board and they took me back to St Mary's, where I was just about able to climb up the quay steps on my own. I'd burst an eardrum. So bloody lucky.
How we sing as we limp through the air. Look below, there's our field over there. With our full crew aboard and our trust in the Lord, we're coming in on a wing and a prayer.
Here on Scilly, the Home Guard played their part too.
Dad's army, they were really rather good.
We did our training at the old Wesleyan Chapel, and then we'd nip out and go to the cinema, you know, just behind there on Garrison Lane.
That's right. We'd go on manoeuvres and we'd have sham fights with the real soldiers what were stationed here.
They had Lee Enfield rifles with bayonets. They were put on patrol at the wireless stations around the coast. You know, they were a good bunch of blokes, and brave too.
I've still got a photograph.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Major, Tully Ward.
Oh yeah, Tully Ward, I remember him, of course.
Yeah. Corporal, Vic Trenwith.
Oh, what an entertainer he were, eh?
Busty Hubbins, remember him?
Good old Busty,
yeah. Then there's Alfred Green, he was a real ex-soldier, he was.
Oh, hero he was.
He got a British Empire Medal for bravery.
June 23rd, 1943, my Jack was on Coast Guard duty up at Deep Point when I saw a Bolton Paul Defiant flying low. It suddenly went into a spin and came crashing down near our house, which was Calm Weathers at Palistry. It hit the water tank near our backyard. The house was flooding, the front door was split in two. The engine house and the crew compartment of the plane were burning.
Alfred, he saw the plane come down, he saw all the flames, so he jumped on his bike to start cycling on up there. But he was going so fast that his wheel caught in a rut and he flew over the hedge. Well, he pulled himself back up, got back on his bike, and he cycled on up to find Jack Tregear, Rodney Ward and Ned Chappell doing everything they could to put out the flames with water and any henhouse litter they could find lying around.
On being told that the crew was still in the plane, Alfred climbed into the blazing machine by means of a slit in the fuselage. Despite there being a 30-gallon petrol tank, he cut the air gunner clear with a knife.
And then Alfred shouted for a rope.
They tied the rope around the injured gunner and then gave orders for him to be pulled out to safety.
That poor man was still alive, although badly injured. He said just 2 words to Alfred.
My mate.
The pilot was killed on impact. Sadly, the air gunner died later that day in St Mary's Hospital.
The funerals were held with full military honours. The sergeant was Derek A.K.F. Hyde, RAF, aged 21.
May a heart so brave or soul so pure is all he gave in freedom's cause.
The air gunner and wireless operator was Flight Sergeant Cyril F. Pell, aged 23.
A life freely given, a beloved son sleeps.
If today your heart is weary, if every little thing looks gray, just forget your troubles and learn to stay. Tomorrow is our lovely day.
Do you remember the dances in the town hall?
Oh, yeah. No. Oh, yes.
And we all used to sit on one side.
And the boys used to sit on the other. Oh, did you know that they used to take bets on who would be the first to take the latest Land Army girl out on a date? Yeah. Jack won 12 shillings for being the first one to take me home. Mind you, I think he always regretted that.
Well, you never know.
Here, do you remember Olive laughing?
Yes.
Oh, at one of the dances, this big fat girl, somehow she slipped on the floor and as she fell, her dress went woo, right up over her head, and she had these stockings on, jet black they were, with great big tears and holes at the top. Oh my word. Do you know, Olive laughed so much that her false teeth came out and they flew across the Oh, it was hilarious. Mind you, boys was very shy, weren't they? And I don't think we were much better.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, we didn't have much to do on St Martin's in the evenings.
No.
I learned to ride that pony, Jessie Bear, and then we went boating and swimming and we walked the dogs, of course.
And flirted with the boys.
Oh, yes. We used to flirt with the boys all the time, didn't we?
I met my to see at one of the dances.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Stelliford's daughter, he grew flowers up at London Farm. Anyway, we got married, and much later we returned to Scilly, where I became all things a flower farmer. It was a good life, but it came at a terrible price. See, Nancy's brother John was a pilot officer during the war. He got killed in North Africa in 1942. I never met him, but I ended up with his farm. It's terribly sad, but that's the fortunes, or rather the misfortunes of war.
Here.
Do you remember our double wedding?
Oh, well, who could forget the Bennett brothers? Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Oh, no, no. Anyone else but me. Oh, no, no. Anyone else but me. No, no, no. Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me till I come marching home.
Here, do you know it's our golden wedding anniversary next year?
Yeah, that's right. Well, you wasted no time in getting married.
No, we didn't, did I? Melvin proposed to me on Pallistree Beach.
Oh, sweet.
We'd gone for our Sunday afternoon stroll. Well, he stopped and he said, "Will you marry me?" And I said, I'll think about it. Well, he went straight home and he said to his family, "Before you eat another thing, I've just got to tell you that me and Mabel have just got engaged." Well, the father-in-law said,
Good God!
Well, when I lived at home, I had lots of boyfriends. Yeah, lots and lots of boyfriends. And when they found out I was getting married, I got brought back fruit from Australia and New Zealand and white flour, and I took eggs and butter from here, and I carted it all back up to London. And my next door neighbour made my cake. Yeah. Oh, it was a beautiful 2-tiered wedding cake. Had icing and everything. Poor old Mabs had nothing.
Can't remember.
Well, you did have a cake that Cherrett made, but you had to have cardboard on it because there wasn't any icing sugar for you.
I can't remember.
Oh, I was very spoiled.
Yes, you were.
And this other lad, he'd gone off. When he came back, he brought me back these silk stockings from Germany. Yeah. So Mabs and I, do you remember? We turned up to our weddings in these beautiful cobwebby silk stockings. Oh, they were gorgeous, they were. Yeah.
I didn't even get a proposal from Artie.
No,
I didn't. He was home on leave, and because he was in the Merchant Navy, he said, "I think the next trip I'll get you a ring."
No.
I know. So I said, "Oh, go on then." And off we went to Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge?
And he bought an engagement ring right there.
Wow.
And you know, he didn't want to pay customs. So do you know what he did?
No.
He sewed it into his fly flap. Yeah, just so he didn't have to pay taxes on it.
Oh, well, but you know what? It's quite romantic, isn't it?
They're not really romantic, they're Salonians, are they?
No, they're not.
I always say, Artie, you never bring me bunches of flowers.
Oh, never.
Yeah.
No.
You only bring me flowers so I can tie them.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. He brings me boxes of the things. Yeah.
Well,
it's like, I just tie them, that's all I do.
Yeah. Well, we weren't supposed to do flowers,
No,
were we?
no.
Flowers were luxury items, and we weren't supposed to do them. We were landowner girls, and we weren't supposed to do luxury.
No.
But, well, we didn't have an option, did we?
No.
it was all flowers over here, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was all part of the season.
Yeah, flowers and milking came together.
That's right.
So we used to help them do the flowers in the winter, didn't we?
We did.
Well, we never got paid any extra for it, though.
No,
did
we did
All we got was our weekly wage.
That's right.
And we'd be there, easily be there till midnight tying and packing, weren't we?
Easily. But all the farmers wanted to grow flowers though, didn't they? Because that was where the good money was.
Yeah.
But the ministry, well, they cut it in half because they wanted them to grow potatoes.
Yeah.
I remember the men, they did nothing but moan about it. Moan.
Always moan.
But we were doing well with those potatoes, though, weren't we?
Yeah, and the gherkins, no?
Oh, yeah. Well, don't forget the gherkins.
I do not love a gherkin.
Yeah.
No, I don't like the gherkins. But no, don't remind me of those gherkins.
You expect them to do
Well, exactly. You know, but it was silly, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was silly.
What? No, it was silly.
Oh, what?
Silly, yeah, silly. Oh, what did they expect them to do? They grew flowers in the winter, and they grew spuds in the summer, and, well, what did they expect them to do? Just sit on the beach singing sea shanties?
Wasn't it? I mean, what a rigmarole though, wasn't it? All them production coupon thingies, whatever do we call, and they were all based on what they did before.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I was allocated 16 boxes for the season. Well, in those days, songs used to come in 24-inch boxes. You could get 2 dozen boxes in at a push. Well, that was no good, was it? I wasn't going to surrender a coupon for that. So I decided to make my own boxes, didn't I? I had cardboard. I could get 60, 70, 80 bunches in them.
Yeah. Well, we used those cartons that came over, that Americans brought over that had food in. Do you remember? We called them coffin boxes.
Oh, yeah. And you could pack in so many flowers so tightly.
That's right. And people used to cycle down to the quay with them, and then they send them to London and sell them on the black market, wouldn't they?
That's right.
Returned from Covent Garden in a dreadful state.
Yeah, we had to use a ramming and a nail, didn't we, to fix them?
That's right.
Oh, but it was great fun, though, up there in the loft. It was a lovely warm job.
I had a word with my mate up the airport. I said, any chance of getting one of these on a flight? Don't see why not, he said. So there I was next day, crawling under the barbed wire fence, dragging a cardboard box behind me. See, if you put them on the steamship, you had to surrender a coupon. But if you got them away like this, you could get them away for free. And they were good money back in those days.
Well, in that one season, no normal routes were used for sending flowers away at all. No. All sorts of shenanigans went on to get the flowers to the mainland. Do you know what? It even paid to pack up the flowers and disguise them in your luggage and go up to London with them.
Eventually, the quota system was reinstated, said to be on the orders of Winston Churchill himself, who claimed,
The country needs the dark and gloomy winter days of war brightened by the appearance of Solonian flowers.
He's changed his tune, hasn't he?
Birds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see.
Late one night in November 43, I was on duty and alerted to a small convoy of 5 landing craft off course and in danger in the seas off Scilly.
We set off into the inky blackness of the night in a wild sea. Eventually, we located the landing craft and we managed to bring the launch alongside. Not easy in those conditions. I prepared to jump across, hoping to land on the deck, but I ended up waist deep in water on a tarpaulin. Miraculously, I was unhurt and was able to take command of the rescue mission. We guided the 5 landing craft back through the rocky mouth of the harbour, and 4 of them were beached safely at Porthmallow. The 5th, however, went adrift and ended up on a rocky outcrop nearby.
We visited the scene the next day. The 4 landing craft again looked like monsters from the deep. The 5th one had a look of embarrassment as it lay at an angle perched high and dry on the rock of Newfound Island. It was some time before they were ready for sea again, and they became the centre of attention from the island's inquisitive children. We 2 wrens were invited on board for tea and to partake of a special Christmas cake that one of the officers had been sent by his family in Australia, quite a treat in wartime Britain. Alice Bickerstaff was in the choir and sang Silent Night to us all, so far from home, bringing us together for Christmas. Little did we know that these vessels, once repaired, would become crucial to the success of the Normandy landings on D-Day.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infants of tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
D-Day, or Operation Overlord, was the Allied invasion of Normandy on the 6th of June 1944. It was the largest amphibious landing in history, with 160,000 troops landing in one day and involving 5,000 ships.
My first ship was with the Snaefell. Eventually got sunk on her. We got attacked with about 7 or 8 Jerry's dive bombers, Stukas. And we shot one down, and the next they hit us with a stick of 3. And of course, magazine fired, that went. And of course, there was only half the ship left, and we were gone in about 3 or 4 minutes. She tipped up like that, and up she goes like that, and down she goes. I've seen a hammock in the water, and I made a dive for it, and I jumped for it, and got in it, and I floated on a hammock. I was on this hammock, and then they asked when the attack was over, because those attacks only last short periods of time. They'd come down, a Stuka used to, and then level out on their bombing run. Anyway, the Usk picked us up. I was one of 16 survivors off that ship, and when I got aboard the boat, there was a lad from Scilly turned up called Kitchy Sherris. I couldn't believe my eyes. He lived at Longstone, and he went to school with me. He's on this. I didn't know he's on in the same fleet. I got a tot of rum off him and I had a drop of rum, and that was the biggest coincidence of the war, I think. I was on several ships after that, and my last one was the Black Prince cruiser. I was on Russian convoys on that one. And we were at D-Day, bombarded Cherbourg, and we had to spot our aircraft up then. So you're on target. We'd open up broadsides on tank concentrations up in the woods and that. And then we put down a creeping barrage for our armies. And on the beaches they landed, we put down a barrage there. There's some stuff flying, believe you me. We fired on one day 90 ton of ammunition. There was other cruisers there as well, and they're all doing the same sort of thing, laying down barrages for the army, and the tank landing craft for landing underneath the barrages, you know.
Here on Scilly, I was out with Rodney Ward. We found ourselves running around Porth Hellick and up to Deep Point and back at Salaki. A message had come over that Normandy had been invaded. So we went up there looking for Germans. 6th of June 1944, D-Day, Rome, Normandy. You may not. That same morning, 2 other members of the Home Guard were out. They were out wandering about, and one of them says, "Hey, something in them bushes. Better go and get the Major." Anyway, up one of them tots to get the Major. He says, "Come on out! Come on out!" I had to say it 3 times, but there was no reply. So he fired. The Major comes running up and he says, "What have you done?" "I've shot a German, Major." Major goes in. They've already gone and shot Jack Kye's donkey from up at Card Prize, haven't they? Now that was royal, I tell you.
There'll always be an England, and England shall be free. If England means as much to you as England means to me. The safe arrival of the Saloni on St Mary's was the highlight of the day.
A wartime master was Joe Brazet, and the islands were indebted to him for keeping the lifeline of the islands open.
Her arrival and departure was reported by the Navy. She even had her own code name, Nominal. Her passengers were mainly troops. But equally importantly, she brought news from the 123 Salonians fighting far from home.
And the Lioness Remembrance League made sure that news and letters were sent back. So no matter where our brave young men and women of Scilly were fighting or imprisoned, they would be sent a quarterly letter, a copy of a Salonian magazine, sometimes some gifts, and sometimes even a little bit of money by way of a postal order.
Of you, and I forget to do the little ordinary things that everyone ought to do. I'm living in
Letters from my daughter in Shanghai were sporadic. We were so relieved that she was away from this terrible war, and delighted to get news of our first grandchild, Gordon, born August the 3rd. But the disquiet between the Chinese and the Japanese increased, and soon war came to them too. We received a cablegram from her husband. December the 9th. Dear Elizabeth, stop. All Shanghai police wives and children are to be evacuated. Stop. I have put them on board the Anhai, a ship bound for Singapore. Stop. On their way to your brother in Sydney. Stop. John. But the Anhai never made it. Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and the East went into freefall. The Anhai was diverted to the nearest safe port, Manila, in the Philippines. We received a letter. My daughter, dear Mum, as we came into harbour, which was filled with shipping of all kinds, the first wave of Japanese planes flew over, dropping bombs on the airfield. Bombing was vicious. By December the 31st, all was quiet. Manila has fallen.
At midnight on New Year's Eve, we observed in the bright moonlight Japanese troops marching along the main road. Some were on horseback. The movements of soldiers seemed never-ending. We are a very unhappy bunch of women, and rather frightened too. We met some of the victors who were polite and had kind words with the children.
We never heard any more for a long time. We thought the worst. But then, 6 months later, a letter finally arrived. After being incarcerated, she'd been sent back to Shanghai with Chod and another baby, Heather June.
Dear Mum, try not to worry. It's hard, but we are managing. Heather was premature. She weighed a mere 3 3/4 pounds. It was awful. We thought she wasn't going to make it. But we pulled her through with, of all things, a prescription of 3-star Sandeman's sherry.
Thank God the baby was all right. Then we heard no more until the end of the war. It was the not knowing that was the worst thing. Dear Evelyn, Jock and children, all we could do was hope and pray.
That certain night, the night we met, there was magic abroad in the air. There were angels dining at the Ritz, and a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square.
March 1944. I received a telegram telling me that my husband Lesley Lambourn, an Harrier fighter pilot, is missing in action. I stopped sleeping. I'm pregnant with our second child. 2 months later, a letter arrived from the Salonia.
22nd of May. Stalingrad Prison Camp 3, Poland. My darling Gray, I hope you have received a telegram and postcard. I know you'll be wondering what has happened to me. All I can say is that I bailed out from my plane over France. Things certainly happened fast after I left you on the 22nd of February. On the 24th I was in France, but I was not taken captive until the 15th of March, and I did not arrive here until the 20th of May. I can't say any more. Regarding parcels, you can get information from the Red Cross. I could do with 2 pairs of warm pyjamas, a sweater, tie, hanky, pipe and tobacco in tins, and a scarf. But no cigarettes, or civilian clothes, or uniform. You can't send food here at all. The library here has several books on farming, and one on bees, so I shall be okay for a while.
I was full of joy and wrote straight back, but my letter did not arrive.
14th of July, 1944. My darling Gray, I still await that first letter. I pray that you are well, and that our new arrival is thriving. The family will be quite grown when I am home. Oh, how I look forward to that day. Glad to say I am quite well, and consider myself remarkably lucky, as the only injury I sustained when jumping was a slight bruise. I forgot to say in my other letters that we only had 1 casualty in the crew. Tommy, our engineer. The rest of us are now prisoners, but the others are in different camps. I do hope you're able to get in touch with Bob's wife. We get quite a bit of sport. Cricket and softball is due to start next week. Don't forget to apply for the extra allowance.
22nd of July, 1944. My darling Les, it is so lovely to be able to write to you after such a long time. The joy of knowing you are safe and well is beyond expression. We are all very well here, and maybe Angela Gray or Lesley Gray should come along soon now. Doctor says all is okay, so don't worry, darling. I'll send a parcel as soon as I possibly can. Mrs. Doreen Smith is helping me quite a lot for the Red Cross. The way she bears the loss of her 2 sons is an inspiration to us all. Things on Tresco are very much the same. The island is still beautiful as ever. It's grand to think that one day you'll be back to see it all again. You are sure you're well, darling? Not wounded or anything? Terence is very well and quite his bonny self again, growing more like Daddy every day. All here send their love, and I send every bit of mine, darling. Your own Gray. July 1944. My darling Les, this is another letter for you. I do hope you'll get some soon. I received a telegram today. For the Red Cross it took longer to come than your letter.
August 1944. My darling Gray, still that longed-for letter has not arrived. We have picked our first tomatoes, but I think you would have taken a poor view of them. I do hope the bees are behaving themselves.
22nd of August 1944. Darling Les, hope letters and telegram have reached you. Your daughter Rosanne Angela is just lovely, darling.
4th of September 1944. Darling Gray, yet another week without news. We are feeling much more optimistic lately now that the news is so cheering. Christmas at home sounds like heaven. I listened to a very interesting talk by a commercial man from Canada about beekeeping the other night. I do hope ours have made enough of a winter supply. I've had an interesting job the past few days. Tin bashing a suit of armour for a show that we're putting on later this week. 28th of September 1944. Another useless month passed. If only some mail would arrive! I had a brainwave last night, and I made some Solonian tady cake. It was quite a success.
Tady cake, Lambourn. Not bad. Oh. Oh, lass, some lettuce for you. Yeah, mate.
6th of October 1944. My darling Gray, how different I felt this week now at last I have news of you. I've been thinking pretty seriously about our farm on Scilly after the war. Where are your thoughts, sweetheart? Do let me know. Could you send me The Isles of Scilly by Jessie Mothersole and any other books you can think of on bulbs and bees, please? Take care, darling, and I look forward to the day when I can hold you in my arms again. Yours devotedly, Les.
It was all very well for the RAF officers. They were relatively well looked after in Stalag Luft 3, unless of course they tried to escape, in which case they'd be executed. It was a different story for us infantrymen. We were captured when they came at us with Tiger tanks, and all we had to defend ourselves was Lee Enfield rifles. That was in Tunis. We were sent over to Italy, to a big prison camp, Lombardy. Then, when the ITIs gave up in 1943, we were told to try and rejoin the Allied forces. Well, me and my mates thought, bugger that for a game of soldiers. So we set off to the mountains, to the Swiss mountains, and we thought we'd try and survive on whatever we could beg, borrow or steal. We were living the life of Riley up in a hunting lodge in the mountains, and then some German bastard shot us. We were sent then to Stalag Luft 7. That was rough. We lived off a diet of sauerkraut and black bread. 6.5 stone I was when the Russians liberated us from that hellhole. When I got back to Scilly, to the old dumping in Old Town, my friends could hardly recognise me.
And when they ask us how dangerous it was, oh, we'll never tell them. No, we'll never tell them.
With the Nazis now firmly on the run, the island's hurricanes were withdrawn to fight elsewhere. At sea, the Battle of the Atlantic had turned in favour of the Allies in 1944, with improved tactics and technology. But there were still many U-boats threatening Allied shipping. On the 18th of December 1944, one such U-boat, U-1209, caught a rather surprised lighthouse keeper on Wolf Rock with his pants down. Well, almost.
December 44. Oh, I went out to relieve myself from the gallery around the light. Now, if you've ever had to go whilst working on a lighthouse, you'll know it's one hell of a place to do it. Anyway, there I was, having a lonesome pee into the vastness of the ocean, when suddenly I noticed I wasn't entirely alone. There below me, stranded on the rocks, was a German U-boat. I quickly buttoned up, roused the rest of the lads, and I got onto Trinity at Penzance, who got the Navy onto it. By the time they arrived, though, the sub had pretty much sunk, badly holding the stern. Turned out it had been trying to position itself under cover of darkness to attack a convoy from the landward side. Sailed too close to the Wolf on an ebb tide, didn't they? And found itself grounded right there below the light. Anyway, Navy picked up 43 survivors. The German U-boat commander, he had a heart attack and he sadly died that day. You know what? They buried him in Bodmin with a Nazi flag draped over his coffin. I ask you, where do you find a Nazi flag in Bodmin?
Victory in Europe came on the 8th of May 1945. Throughout Britain, the lights went on and the flags went up with much rejoicing. On Scilly, the peace was celebrated with a parade through St Mary's, led by Lt.Tom Williams with a scarlet jacket, black trousers, side whiskers and a false moustache. He was followed by all members of the town band, each one in fancy dress of all kinds. The three services and local defence volunteers marched behind, cheered on by the islanders who lined the narrow roads, with small boys running to catch up with the parade.
In traditional style, the Navy splags the mainframe!
Lesley came back to Tresco, to his family and his peace, an island of all the things he hadn't been able to write about. His planning and the great escape from Stalag 3 and his work with the French resistance.
A service of thanksgiving was held at the church, attended by all military personnel. Afterwards, they marched through St Mary's for the last time.
Whilst V-Day was celebrated here in Great Britain, our lads were still fighting the Japanese in the east.
My daughter and her husband spent the war in and out of different prison camps, separated for over 1,000 days. When Evelyn and the rest of the wives and children were released, news of their husbands was bad. The Japanese train journey had been awful. train had stopped at a siding for a whole day. In the baking heat, the men, tightly packed in carriages, gasping for air. Then some brave Chinese peasants broke in and released them. It was then that they learnt the ghastly truth. Mass killings. A ditch that ran alongside the track was being used as a mass grave. That would have been their fate too, had Japan not surrendered when the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That second bomb had exploded just as their train came into that siding. They were so lucky.
We had orders to go into Tokyo Harbour to pick up some ex-prisoner of war. When we were helping aboard, they were like skeletons and yellow as guineas. Until they spoke, you didn't know they were English, and some could hardly walk. Such a bad way. So what we did with the bad cases, we took them off because there was a hospital ship laid outside, and in case the Japs decided to have another go, and she laid off in safety waters, was being guarded with a couple of other ships, and anyway we went off to the hospital ship and offloaded some of these less fortunate boys, and I'd never seen a sight like that in my life, and a lot of those helped build the Burma Road. They treated them terrible.
November the 11th, 1945. Truly a day to remember. Evelyn, Jock and the children boarded the SS Arawa and began their very long journey home. Across the Indian Ocean, through the Suez Canal. Their first sight of England was Start Point in Devon. Ah, what a joyous sight that must have been. They spent a night in Penzance and then boarded the Little Rapide for the final leg of their very, very long journey. We were busy making flags and screens. Put up at the airport, and all the boats in the harbour were festooned. And they were home. Jock got a job at the airport as a fireman, and Evelyn got a job as bookkeeper at the Slonian stores. They lived in Tregear, in the backyard in the summer and the house in the winter. We were so lucky. They had returned. So many didn't.
One should never go back, they said. But I did return to the islands that I'd last seen at the end of the war in Europe. The Isles of Scilly, where I'd served as a Mt. Pringle. When we were young and all in uniform, after what seemed like half a lifetime, I stepped ashore once more on St Mary's Quay, but the harbour seemed strangely empty.
No navy, khaki, or Air Force food.
The place was full of ghosts.
There's too many hard memories there for me. A lot of people just revel in something like that, to go back. I mean, God's truth. I mean, at times we were steaming through bodies. Horrible sight. I was lucky. I was one of the lucky ones.
There's a you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me.
Right, it's fallen to me, basically, to thank everybody involved. I mean, obviously the staff and Jack and the lantern and enabling this to happen, but there's been so much input in this, and so many people. We started this 10 months ago in December. Well, didn't know what we were in for, really. It wasn't lack of material, it was so much material. It was with our announcement. I mean, this could have lasted for 48, 50 hours. So I just got to thank some people. Certainly Kay and John Brownfield. Evelyn Pascoe diaries there. I mean, that was 81 pages long. And I'm also going to say thank Kay Hale, even if he's here tonight, for cutting it down to 2 pages of A4 so we could put it in. But also, Kay knew lots of people in the pictures. Like you've seen the pictures of the actual voices. I managed to get pictures of virtually all of them when they were young, except for Katie Thompson. I don't think she was ever young. I think she was. I couldn't find a single picture of under the age of 50. But, yeah. And also Ned Rogers, he gave me loads of stuff at his granddad, David Rogers, and all those RAF pictures came from there. The museum, obviously, and again, Kay Hale, she had loads of that, particularly the Grace and Les letters. And an enormous amount of other stuff. Also, Slowly magazine is so full of stuff from World War II, and almost definitely the final one sold out today. Maybe another print. You don't know that. Depends what the manuscript. Who else have we got to thank? You. No, yeah. Yes, actually. I should pretend it's like getting in any bit. So I did a little video. In fact, I was probably the first person to bow up at this, doing the Frank Campbell ones. It's extremely emotional. Actually, I've got to thank Frank. Me and my wife interviewed him in 2014 for the 70th anniversary of D-Day. Couldn't find him audio anywhere. And it turned up in a dead email thread, which is great. So we were just going to use written words for that. We actually got Frank's words, and I think some of Frank's stuff was really well. So it's been a huge effort all around. And some of it just sort of came out of nowhere. Like, we just found a little bit that Ned sent me about the Wolf Rock thing. That's a wonderful story. You go out for a pig, you discover the pig. But it's this, what's this brought me? So it's the stuff we missed. I mean, there are lots of crashing planes in it. There's one of us, a really happy story. A Yankee Dakota had to crash down at the airport, Anfield, I don't quite remember why. Nobody was hurt. On it, there was a Jeep, loads of cider, and cheese. What these Yankees did, they just reversed out the back of the Dakota, drove around the island for a picnic, propositioning local girls, no doubt extremely successfully. So there's lots of lovely stories we had to ignore, and also just forget the Memories DVD of the Three Land Girls, and they would like that. Pam Bennett was extremely proud of her cake, and Mabel refused to remember hers, and it was a joint wedding, they could have shared that. Just thank it to everybody else. And everybody, I mean, it was me, Gail, Kevin, and Chris, Chris did a lovely hammy voice for the news reporter, and he suggested all the music. But we didn't really write it. It was a question of filtering all this wonderful stuff out and getting it together. And now it's all dead. It's finished, it's ashes. But I have videoed it. I have successfully tonight. Last week I tried a video and I got the back of people's heads. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.